Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Who Are You podcast. I'm your host, Connor Overbay. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure you guys give us a like, a subscribe, a comment, 5-star rating, you know, all the normal good stuff. You guys can find us on all the social media. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod, from everything from Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I still call it Twitter, even though it's X now. Facebook, all the normal spots. And as well, if you guys are checking us out on the YouTube or haven't checked our YouTube out, it's going to be Who Are You podcast on there. And maybe you guys will be able to check out some other behind the scenes stuff, you know, day-to-day work. You know, we're getting better. I'm learning how to edit a video a little bit better now, so thankfully. But today, sitting down with a very, very special guest, a man of many talents, really. I say, when I sat down and started doing my research on it, I was like, damn. I was like, I didn't realize all the hands and all the things that you're involved with. But today I'm sitting down with Mr. Scott Whatley, right? Yeah. I got the last name correct. But before we get started in the conversation, if you want to let everybody know where they can follow you, anything you want to promote here at the beginning.
Yeah, totally. Anything, social media-wise, Instagram, I'm Scott Whatley Comedy on there, and on TikTok, it's Scott Whatley Stand-Up. YouTube, the Shallow End Boys. Nice. Me and a couple comedians tour as a trio.
Hell yeah, man.
We're called the Shallow End Boys, so we started dumping a bunch of content on there, a little bit longer form stuff, and some of the sketches that we do that are... my wife's like, really? You're going to put on another wig and play another character? I'm like, yeah, trust me. This idea is huge.
I love it, man. And like I said, like I've seen, a bunch of clips. That's actually how I found you originally. Mm-hmm. I've been aware of you for a little while. Just kind of, I'm one of those people where I watch for a little while before I reach out to people. Just want to make sure I have an idea of who I'm talking to, see what, your style is and all that kind of stuff. And the first video I saw was one of your more viral ones, was the one of the back of the transportation bus for prisoners. Yeah. And you're like, everything's okay. I was sitting there, I was like, oh no.
Oh, dude, that was so random. I was actually, last minute, I decided to drive up to Georgia. I have a piece of property up there, and my oldest daughter loves to go to the woods, and she loves to hunt and stuff. And so I was like, hey, get in the truck, let's go. And it was like a total last minute thing. I didn't even really have enough time to I usually block off a couple days to go up to the property. I was like, let's just run up there. And we're sitting in traffic in Waycross, and I'm just like, what on? And I look at this prison bus, and I'm like, the door's unlocked. And I elbowed my daughter. She's like, what? So I just pulled my phone out and just filmed it real quick and just did that little, it's like, it's so stupid because I've spent like days writing and scripting and shooting and editing and like developing a character for a sketch, and it gets like 10,000 views. Mm-hmm. I just pulled my phone up and did that, and it did 22 million views, and I was like, what?
Damn, 22 million?
Yeah, and I reposted it again, and it's done over 1 million. So that's the key. Like, if content is actually good, there's no stopping it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll probably post that same thing like once a year from forever. Because if I do it and it gains that much traction every time, and it'll probably do less and less every time, but why not?
Hey, man, it's whatever gets people's attention. And as you said, if it's good content, it's good content. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in today's world, a lot of people are so involved, like you're saying, putting hours and hours into videos. Like I do it every single week. And, luckily enough, it started to gain a little more traction. I don't have any million view videos at the current moment, but you just never know what could take off. And at the end of the day, with what you do, visibility is everything. Yeah. And, obviously, you're a comedian, you're a business owner, a father, obviously. So you're just a man with many hats that you wear, but that's awesome. So, and we were talking a little bit before the podcast. You weren't born in Jacksonville, but you've been here for most of your life.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I was born in Dallas, Texas, and like I was saying, my dad joined the Navy. Actually, Top Gun came out.
Really?
And my sister was just born, and he's coming home from the hospital, and he's like, man, I got nothing to do. I'm going to swing in and watch this movie. So he swings in and watch Top Gun. And he was like, oh, my God, that movie's unbelievable. So he wakes up in the morning, goes to see it again. He did like 14 times in a row, and then went and enlisted in the Navy. He's like, I got to fly planes.
Damn.
And so I could thank Top Gun for leaving Texas. My dad joined the Navy, and then we moved to Pax River, Maryland, and we're there for a little while. Then we moved to Florida, and my parents split up when we moved back here. Or moved here for the first time. So I was a little kid. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old or something like that. So been a Florida boy ever since. Like I'm a Texan, but I feel like I'm a Florida boy no matter what. Like
I feel like Florida and Texas are somewhat close. Not exactly the same, but somewhat close there because
not far off.
We have some wild people here, but we also the southern side of things like hunting. There's great fishing spots here, and not even just Jacksonville, but throughout the state of Florida. And I'm sure there's some good hunting spots. I don't really know too much about Florida. I know they're paying people to go kill anacondas and shit nowadays. So there's all
pythons are going nuts.
I'll say you got to get out there and get the snakes and and everything. But that's cool, man. And obviously, we were talking before, and you said, you grew up more in the Orange Park area, right?
Yeah.
Did you go to Orange Park High School?
I did. I went to Orange Park for my freshman and sophomore year, and then I went to Ridgeview for junior and senior.
Oh, nice. I went to Sandalwood High School here in Jacksonville.
Sandalwood.
Yeah, Scandalweed.
Scandalweed.
I tell people that. They're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I know. It wasn't too terrible. It was definitely a little eye-opening. I will say that. There's some interesting people that came out of there, but, it wasn't too bad, man. I was around a bunch of people and, from every ethnicity to every religion to really anything. And, it taught me just to look at people for who they are, get to meet and be involved and see what's all going on because, obviously I'm pasty white, say a white dude, but with me, I'm sure you notice I'm a little tall. I played basketball my whole life and kind of played a mix of sports, but it wasn't a bad experience, man. Got to go through it and, got out of there, got a high GPA and went to college and got my associate's degree, working on the bachelor's, kind of going from there, but it wasn't a bad experience, man. And Jacksonville's grown so much to the point now where it's gotten very interesting.
Yeah.
Like all the different businesses that are coming here, whether it's that or like even the comedic space is growing. I was talking about Bobby Brown Jr.
Yeah.
Shout out Bobby Brown over.
Man, what up?
Yeah, man, working out the Kill Tony and everything. It's cool to see, but I just love to see the growth of Jacksonville. That's something I've been pushing so hard on, is seeing all the different things that are coming here. People are trying to do good things, and including yourself, man. Yeah. I know you said what was the name of the place that you have your comedy show now? I'm sorry.
Well, I do. I host an open mic on Tuesday nights at Voussoir. It's the oldest black-owned business in Atlantic Beach, Mayport.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, Lewis, the owner, his dad, Mr. E, built the place with his bare hands in the 60s, back when things were segregated. Like, there was a black beach only and a white beach only.
Wow.
Like, the beaches, the past is a little dicey.
A little bit.
Right? It's not that great. And at the time, I mean, it was pretty difficult for a black guy to start a business, let alone build a building and do the whole thing. But he had friends in the construction industry that he would call and go, hey, man, you got any extra block? You have any extra, sheets of plywood or whatever? So he, quite literally built the place by hand and was, obviously I actually saw some of the original plans for it, and talking to Lewis on how difficult it was for his dad to get things approved at the time. But yeah, so I met him, me and Lewis became pretty fast friends, and I was like, hey man, I think I want to do some stand-up comedy here. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, I'm in.
Hell yeah.
And but we had to have a serious talk, because I was like, hey man, comedy can't be filtered, right? And this is a historic black-owned bar. The culture here is already pretty. It's got some roots, right? I'm going to bring a bunch of like average white guys in here slinging these dick jokes, like, what do you think? And he was just like, no, comedy has to be completely unbridled and unfiltered. And and I grew up in a home where like you got made fun of, like you got roasted, you didn't get yelled at, So like for me, like you love somebody, you give them a hard time, like, hey, look what this guy's doing, And so anyway, we just talked about it. Like, if we're going to do comedy, like if everybody's even and equal, then nobody's off the table.
Exactly.
And he's like, run it. And we've been doing it for several years now, and it's been pretty great. It's been cool to see a whole new culture of people find out about Voussoir for the first time that would never go there. Like in the beginning, I'd be like, hey man, come to this open mic. And where is it? Voussoir. And I'm like, oh, geez, you go in there?
Where's that located? Because even me, I've heard of it, but I've never been personally.
Yeah, so you familiar with Mayport Road at all?
Yeah.
You know where all those murals are? It's right there.
Oh,
In fact, there's a big mural on the back side of it. It almost looks like a house. You walk in, it's this huge bar.
That's cool.
Yeah, so.
I did pest control for a while, so that was part of my route. Like, I took care of everything from down, like the bridge of downtown all the way to Atlantic Beach, Jax Beach, to St. Augustine. So I've driven by it 1,000 times. I'm sure, just maybe not have known what was going on there. Yeah. But that's awesome that you were able to get in there. And like comedy holds a spot in my heart, because as you were talking about your family, you guys make fun of each other. My family is loud, proud, and boisterous. We have no problem talking shit, and some feelings get hurt, but at the end of the day, we know it's just jokes. Yep. And I think comedy holds a very special part in our culture here. If you can't laugh at yourself, what are we doing? You're taking yourself too seriously. For real. I've gotten roasted a billion times, and sometimes it hurts, but sometimes I'm like, damn, they're right. I have to take a second to look at it, but it's a good thing. And as I was telling you before we started the podcast, I feel like it holds a spot where, you guys are really kind of pointing out the truth of what's going on that people don't want to say out loud. Yeah. I'm sure everybody knows the political climate and all this other bullshit that's going on where people are so divided. I feel like comedy, you can go in there and everybody, doesn't matter what color you are, can laugh together. Yeah. And laughter is the best medicine in my personal opinion. Yeah. And I tell that to people, before we get started on a Tuesday night. I say, look, like, white, black, rich, poor, straight, gay, like, it doesn't matter. Like, nothing's off the table, because we're all
it's a level playing field here. We're going to have a good time. And I'd let people know, like, if you are easily offended and that's something you can't handle, go to the bar in the front. You're probably not going to enjoy your time here anyway. But if you stick around, like, get ready.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell people, like, if you're laughing all night long and then somebody like hit your little trigger button, like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care. Just hang out. The next comic's going to be talking about something else you think is funny again. You'll be back to having a good time, but don't ruin it for everybody else,
Yeah, man. And that's something that's grown as well is, like, from what I've seen, like, I remember I've been a fan of, like, Rogan, Tom Segura, all the big names. Everybody knows these guys now from doing their podcasts or their comedy tours and everything.
Yeah.
And from something I've noticed a lot with, like, some of the newer comedians that are coming up that are, like, crowd work.
Yeah.
I've seen crowd work has become a big thing with, like, social clips and everything.
Yeah.
And nothing cracks me up more because, at least me personally, as a normal person, I can go sit and someone's roasting me or, they're talking about a subject maybe I'm not the happiest about.
Yeah.
I've never had the thought, I'm going to stop this show because I'm so fucking important that I need to make my voice heard.
Yeah.
And I see those videos, I'm like, dude, relax. I think I was watching some of your stuff whenever I was doing research, and it was like an older white dude was like, I'm going to beat your fucking ass, blah, 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 blah. You're like, goodbye.
Yeah, that guy, he was having a rough night. That's the wildest it's ever got for me on stage in terms of, like, somebody getting upset. And that was a show we were doing in St. Pete. It was me and a couple guys, Alex and Mikey. Like I said, we travel together under that name, the Shallow End Boys. And we were doing a show in St. Pete, and it was actually on D-Day, January 6th.
Okay. Yep.
And he was like, actually, January 6th is the storm that came.
I was going to say, I was thinking, I was like, wait a second.
Wrong January. June 6th.
I got you.
June 6th. Yeah, January 6th. Like, we're not storming any capitals. I know what I look like, all right? I'm not trying to get anybody riled up. No, it was June 6th, I think, is D-Day. And if I'm butchering it, it's just because it's under the pressure of the podcast.
Of course, the lights.
But anyway, he was belligerent. He was like, oh, it's D-Day. We lost a lot of good men on that beach. And I'm like, all right, calm down, dude. You weren't there. Like,
exactly.
I'm patriotic as hell. Like, I actually have a little bit of sand from the beaches in Normandy because a friend of mine visited France, and he knows how much it means to me. Like, I love America, and I love what we did in terms of, like, ending the war and all that stuff. So anyway, he brought me back some sand. Like, I'm a patriotic guy. Like, I respect that.
That's
beach.
fucking cool.
But I had a joke where I talk about men crawling up the beaches in Normandy, and the whole joke ends up making me look like an asshole at the end. But he didn't give me a chance to get there.
Yeah.
And he just got all upset. He's like, oh, and I'm like, dude, if you would just chill out, like, you would actually understand at the end of this joke that you and I feel the same way.
Yeah.
But he was belligerent and wanted to fight me, and so he never got to hear the end of the joke.
People are ridiculous,
he
man.
had to get thrown out.
I saw him get grabbed. I was like, oh shit. I was like, there he goes.
It's kind of wild. For a second there, I thought he might make it to the stage. I was like, oh, dude,
hit him with the mic
stand
stand real
fight
quick.
a guy at a comedy show. Like, we're supposed to be making people laugh, man.
Yeah, man. Like, people take themselves too seriously, and as you said, like, you got to listen to the whole joke before you make your opinion. And isn't that what comedy is about? It's misdirection. It's like adding, 100%. Setting things up.
Yeah, I was explaining that to somebody the other day, and I was like, in order for it to catch you off guard, I have to a lot of times take people down a road in a joke that's completely contrary to what I actually think or feel to build the tension, so that when I relieve it with the punchline, everybody goes, yeah, we're all together. Yeah. But if you stop me too early, you're I look like an asshole, and then you look like an asshole. Like, and it's always some little basic white bitch that's had too many white claws. You're not funny. It's like, oh, shut up. Like, they're always offended on somebody else's behalf. And it's like, I'll be telling a joke that makes me look racist until the end, and then you're going to yell at me for being a racist. And it's like, dude, you're a little white girl. See the black guy next to you? He thinks this shit is hysterical. Like, me and him are having a good time, and you're ruining it. Like, what the hell?
People are, like I said, people feel like they're the main character in their life. And, I understand. Like, I understand thinking you're important, but blah, blah, blah. But, like, to stop a show, I've seen that so many times now. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, it's not that serious. And as you said, just continue the joke, and at the end, you guys can laugh together.
Right.
And even if you don't like the comedy, just don't come back. It's not that serious, man.
Excuse yourself.
Yeah, just walk out. You don't have to stop the whole thing. But like I said, I think comedy really does hold, like, a special thing here. And, like, I don't know if comedy was, like, started in the United States or not. I'm sure
we invented it, I'm pretty sure.
Did we? That's what I was thinking, because, other countries, there's some things you're not allowed to say.
Electricity, railroads, comedy, all the great inventions.
USA, USA. Damn right, man. And I think it's funny because other cultures mimic what we do.
Yeah.
You go to other countries and they are starting to do similar things to what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see American culture has, transcended the world.
Yeah.
We're looked at as one of the richest countries in the world, and they add so much different stuff to it. But, going around and doing all this, how do you balance so much that you do? Obviously with comedy, I know you're on the road, you own a business, you're a father. How do you kind of balance those three, or maybe there's more things I'm not even aware of that you do?
Well, you just do all of them very poorly. You just barely pull it off. I've never really had, maybe a couple times in my life I've held real jobs where I've worked at an ad agency or whatever, but for the most part I've been a freelancer my whole career, whether I own the business or just took on clients. And I've always prioritized freedom and just time and mobility above anything. And so I have a handful of clients that I work for, and, I kind of forecast out and I go, all right, what can I handle this month? Like how many projects, how many days of shooting? I'm probably busier now than I've ever been. I'm actually producing a fishing show for a guy, and
congrats, dude. That's awesome.
We're filming a lot and editing a lot, and it's taking a lot of time, because for the most part I've produced short form pieces, whether it's TV commercials or, mini docs and stuff like that. So to do, full length episodes of TV, it's a lot more than I'm typically used to. So some stuff's actually taking a little bit of a back seat. Like me and the guys were just talking, we're trying to put out clips routinely. And so there's times where a week or two will go by and I'm like, man, I haven't done anything for myself in a while. But being a creative person, the things that I enjoy doing for a hobby, they kind of coincide with my work. And so I have to be careful because of, you're shooting and editing TV all day, and then the weekend comes, and that's when the guys want to get together and do more shooting and editing. And so recently I've been almost fighting burnout a little bit on that.
Understand.
And so, but for me, I'm an avid deer hunter. I hunt with a bow. And so just sitting in the woods, just being completely still and motionless for several hours forces me. It's another hobby. It's like another obsession, but it forces me to sit still. And that to me is incredibly valuable. Even my wife is like, hey, you need to probably go get in the woods, dude.
It's good for you, man.
Yeah, it's so good for you to just sit and be still and just think. And, and I come up with a lot of material when I'm in the woods. I come up with a lot of, creative ideas for whatever I'm doing, that kind of stuff. And some of the other businesses, like my wife and I, we own a beer and wine bar. And, and I say that loosely. It's hers. It's her baby. She runs that thing. The whole thing is her.
What's the name of it?
The Palms Pantry.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
So, I'm involved when we're having coffee in the morning, talking about some hurdles and challenges or whatever, but it's mostly, she uses me as a sounding board, but that's her.
Gotcha.
So, that doesn't take any of my day to day really, other than just her and I in the mornings and evenings talking or whatever. But so that might give the appearance like I've got more going on than I do but when you realize it's really her running all that.
But that's what partners are for, man. My wife, she does a little bit more of the behind the scenes stuff. Usually she's here. Usually she's behind the camera, making sure things are going good. Or she'll even text me while I'm doing an interview. She's like, ask this. She's like, there's a part that you missed here. I want you to ask that question and stuff. Yeah. But no, that's the same thing, man. I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today without her. We just shout out to the wife. I say we just actually had our 1-year wedding anniversary yesterday.
Congrats.
We had our 8-year of being together anniversary earlier this month, and it's crazy to see, man. Just you got to have that partner behind you. I don't think anybody gets anywhere with just by themselves. No. There's a lot of people who act like they're self-made and all that. In some ways you are, but there's also something needs to bounce your way, or there's that person that help push you to go farther into what you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's the same way. And you were saying sitting in the woods and being by yourself for a minute. I think that's invaluable, man. I was telling you, taking not working right now and kind of focusing more on doing this before I kind of jump into something else. It's big, man. You got to have that time to really kind of plan on what you want to do. And sitting here and, sitting with my thoughts is a little weird because I'm a mover and shaker. Ever since I was 16 years old, I've worked a full-time job in high school, throughout college to now. And having a lot more time on my hands freaks me out. I'm like, shit, I need to do stuff. So now, today I sat here for 4 hours editing clips and looking at different ways of editing because I had no audio editing skills, no video editing skills before I started this. So it's really just trying to hone in my craft, asking more people on how they do things and trying to just get more involved in it. And I think it's good, man.
What are you using? You using Adobe products? Or
Yeah, I use Adobe Premiere for my editing side of things, and then funny enough, audio editing's what's it called? Audacity. It's free, man.
Okay.
It has everything on there that I really need. Like compressors. You
don't use Adobe Audition?
I've never had a chance, or I guess I just never have used it. I've like I said, I jumped into doing the podcasting thing. We're going on 3 years ago now, and I found what was user friendly, something that I could learn because, like I said, no background in it. Didn't go to school for it. I just saw this and I was like, I want to do this. And when I started doing it, I kind of just learned on these specific programs I've used so far, but I'm open to learning new things.
Yeah, I'm notorious for doing today's project on last year's gear and technology. Like, I move, like, the idea is the king for me. Like, and there are certain dudes that are just like gear nerds, like, oh, this camera does this or this. Like, I just learned this little technique or whatever. And I'm kind of like notoriously lazy about that stuff. And because for me, I'd rather just be, what's the story? How am I going to take an audience on the journey and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm notorious for that. Like,
I'm the same way, man, just learning bits and pieces. And with people I've had on here, they've taught me a lot of things. Like there's another podcast here. It's called Random Acts of Podcast in Jacksonville. Okay. Super big podcast. They deal with like musicians, a mix of people here. Oh, yeah. And the guy, he was like my third episode on YouTube, and he sent me a whole link for basically Adobe Premiere. It was like a college course for it. Wow. And I sat there and watched it religiously. I'm like, so I can do this, or how do I add a beginning screen just to make like a beginning sequence. And that took me 3 hours. And I was like, holy shit, this is a little harder than I thought it was. But it's fun, man. Like,
it's like playing a video game.
Yeah, you're learning and you're teaching yourself something. And in today's world where everybody's an influencer, it's important to use. You know,
you got to have those skills. And like, you can't, well, you mentioned earlier with crowd work and stuff with comics, like, part of the reason that is such a big deal is because you don't have to burn your material, but you have to stay active on social media. You used to be able to be funny enough and get on the Late Show, or get on the Tonight Show or whatever, and people would find out about you there, and that's how you get booked and whatever. But that is gone now. You have to be on a podcast, or you have to create clips, and so filming yourself at open mics or shows or whatever, and clipping things, doing crowd work. You don't burn your material. And so I've seen so many people where it's like, it's not enough just to be funny. You have to learn how to edit. You have to learn, because everybody's an influencer. Yep. To your point, it's like, you can't just be funny on stage. You got to have 2 cameras, one on the crowd, one on you. Got to be able to cut that up. Got to be able to do captions. Do you know how to do captions? Yep. You got to animate your captions. Okay. You going to put any music into that? You going to put any, like, it's like, what the hell? When are you going to have time to just write a joke?
It's crazy, man. It definitely is. And with you traveling around and everything, what are more your markets? Do you kind of go throughout the United States, or is there more like your hot spots that you like?
Stand-up?
Yeah, for stand-up.
Oh, yeah, mostly Southeast.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't really broken out of here too much. Florida, Georgia for the most part.
Nice.
Yeah, we're not I can sell tickets around Jacksonville pretty easily. But once that ring of influence gets thinner and thinner as you get out of your home base. So, we've done as far down as St. Pete, as far north as, we had a show in Atlanta that we ended up having to cancel, but, Douglas, Georgia, we did a theater there, which is pretty cool. That was the biggest show we've ever put together, and learned a lot about that. Like, I'm sure it was, even the guys, I was like, it even came down to like the day of the show. It's like, hey, we got to get there like 6 hours early. And the guys are like, why? Like, I played in a band for a long time when I was younger, and I was like, I'm telling you, nothing's going to work right. The stage won't be right. The lighting's going to be messed up. Like, the audio guy's not going to know what he's doing. That's just the way it works. You have to walk into it assuming those things and then work backwards to problem solve on top of promoting it, selling tickets, all that stuff. So,
and when it comes to your material, I know there's like a tight 5 minutes, there's 30 minutes to an hour. Are you more of like the 30-minute side, or are you more at the hour? Like, you do the full, the closing? For
the most part, when me and the guys are traveling together, I'll headline those shows, and I usually do a half hour. But we'll kind of, depends on like what host we're bringing, how much time we're giving our host. Most of the guys, me, Alex, and Mikey, we're all pretty comfortable doing 20 to 30 minutes.
That's crazy, man. That's freaking nuts.
I can probably do 45 to I don't know if I could do a full hour of good material.
I understand.
I've got an hour's worth of material, but the way I kind of look at my set is like, okay, I open up with this relational stuff, and then I go to this, I don't know why, but for some reason I always give animals characters, and I have this I end up talking about animals as though I'm an animal in the first person talking. I don't know. Didn't ever set out to do that. But then I got like my relationship chunk, my chunk on animals, my chunk on rednecks. And then you start to like build on that idea. And then, and then you kind of circle back to the family stuff. So I look at my comedy set like bricks. You know, it's like I got this chunk here, that chunk there, and then like there's mortar that kind of like stitches it together. You know, like so here's the brick, and then you get this little segue. I know I'm kind of getting nerdy about it, maybe.
No,
but
you're
like,
good.
So if I'm doing a 10-minute set, it's like, okay, I know I can do this is about 8 to 9 minutes, and then I know I'm going to do some crowd work. Okay, cool. And then, but if I'm doing a half-hour set, like I try to take people on a journey with me.
Yeah.
So like I'm a high energy guy on stage. So like let's open up with some stuff. Let's figure out how relatable the crowd is. And I go up with a loose idea of like I'd like to do this chunk, that chunk, this chunk. But then I just kind of see what the audience is looking for. Like I did a show a few weeks ago at the Comedy Zone, and all I knew was what I wanted to open with. But I've been doing a lot of this material I've been working on for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So I may do a joke it's a year and a half old, but it just works tonight. I might not even said it in a while, but like I can tell by this couple in the front row and the dynamic that's happening here that this thing's going to work for them.
Gotcha.
You know, I think they've got kids. I'm going to talk about being an uncle, you know, or this, you know, whatever. So I could probably rough out an hour, but I don't think it would be an hour of like all killer, no filler.
I understand.
So if I do a half hour, I want it to be just murder the whole time. And if I'm doing anything less than that, I'll generally go up with like a rough idea of what I want to do. And then I know I've got enough stuff that I can just pull out what works in the moment. And that was a big, like, milestone for me, is to start going up comfortable in my own skin on stage, to go like, I'm not going to like, cause there's times you go up and the stress and the pressure of the audience there, you almost like fog of war, like, and when you first start doing like 5 and maybe you get booked for 10, you're like, I just don't want to forget my material, and like the stresses of that. When you get, there's a hump you can get over, you're like, I'm funny.
Yeah.
And I've got a bunch of funny stuff. Let's just see where this goes, but also like respecting the audience. Like you don't want to do that too early, because then you get up there, you forget what you're doing. The worst thing you can do is get booked for an amount of time and show up and do half that time. Be like, oh, I'm stuck. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, yo.
Because that's the thing I've always wondered, because, you know, watching the greats, you know, the guys who are out there doing this thing, like I said, Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, Dave Chappelle, all of them, to watch these guys do an hour, and people's perception are thinking that you guys just talk.
Yeah.
And I know it's not that.
It should look that way, though.
It does. Feel that way. It's when it's smooth, and you got like, and this is why they tour. You know, you're massaging that idea, and maybe you move one part of the joke to the back or move it to the front, and then you kind of see what works like that. Because I like, you know, like with me growing up, I went to college and did all that, and like I did public speaking. I love public speaking. I think it's really interesting because it makes me nervous, and that's what gets me excited. And if you go in there prepared, it shouldn't scare you. Right. But when you're not prepared, as what you're saying, or like maybe you are, like you said, the fog of war side of things, and you like just blank on something, you're like, oh shit, what part was that? But to be up there for 10 to 30 minutes in general, that's hard, man. And to make sure, like, you know, people are laughing, make sure you guys remember that spot, or, you know, maybe you give a pause in a certain spot, because that's what works for the joke as well. It's super cool, man. Like I said, I respect comedians a lot, because I know it's not easy, especially getting in front of that many people. Doesn't matter if it's 10 people or 1,000 people. That's a shit ton of people to be making, like, try to make them laugh.
I would rather be in front of like 200 to 300. That's kind of like a real fun area to be in.
More intimate kind of room.
Yeah, well, rather than be in front of like 10 or 15.
Understand.
10 or 15 is the hardest, because it like if there's 300 people in a room and I say something, odds are somebody's going to think that's funny.
Exactly.
And that's going to be kind of contagious, and people are going, oh, I'm going to laugh along with that. If it's 10 people and like one guy thinks it's funny, everybody's going to look at that one guy like, you're an idiot. And so is that guy. You know, it's like a lonely place to be.
I can understand. Have you ever had a bad bombing?
Yeah, I mean, every comic bombs. During shows, I haven't necessarily bombed in a show. I've had struggles where I've had to really earn every single laugh. Like, damn, you guys are stiff. Yeah. You know, but like you bomb open mics all the time, because you're just working on stuff. Like I'm going up with an idea that like, I wrote this at 2 a.m. I don't know if it's funny. I have to battle test it and see. So, but thankfully, I mean, everybody bombs. I'm not going to say I haven't.
100%. Yeah.
But I don't make a habit of bombing.
I can understand, man.
It's definitely not something that happens to me often. I'm thankful for that.
That's good, man.
I think my material is relatable enough, and I'm funny enough with the crowd, even if, so like, crowd work is an amazing skill. If sometimes material is just not working, and I think a lot of people, because of the crowd work clips have become so popular, I think a lot of audiences go to shows thinking that's what comedy is. He's going to talk to us the whole time. And if you're just doing material and they're just like, well, we got to involve ourselves in this show. We got to help him out.
Oh God.
You know, and so you got to be able to like switch gears and do that. So thankfully I like crowd work a lot. It's one of my favorite things. I would go up with no material and just do crowd work if I could.
I think it's a good skill to have, man, because you're off the cuff. So you're thinking like quick on your feet, because like people like Matt Rife, you know, these younger guys who've made their way up and ascended, that's a lot of what they do as well. And I think it's funny personally. I think it's interesting when you can roast someone like right on there and like make it funny. Speaking of the roasting side of things, obviously, you know, I've seen your clips of the people holding the roast me signs.
Yeah.
How'd that idea come up? And is that your buddy, one of your comedian buddies that sits with you, that travels with you?
Yeah, that's Alex is with me on that, and it's actually Alex's idea.
Oh, really?
We posted it on my Instagram account because I had more traction. We just wanted to see what it would do, but it's actually his idea. So shout out to Alex Sanders.
Shout out to Alex, man.
we were writing sketches. He's like one of my writing partners. We just he more often than not will come to me and go, hey, what if we did Forrest Gump mixed with Donald Trump? Like, what would that look like? I'm like, all right, that's actually funny. Let's write that, you know? Or he's like, I got an idea. Vagina mints. And you're like, holy shit, what if we did it like the Mentos commercial? Like, so like he comes to me with those ideas. He's an incredible sketch writer, and we were going over all that kind of stuff, and he was like, dude, we need to do street roasts. I'm like, all right, I'm listening, you know. And he's like, we just make them hold a sign that says roast me. We'll just roast them. And I'm like, all right, so we'll just film it. And the idea there is like, it is comedy more so than a sketch, right? But you're not burning your joke material, and you're not just doing crowd work nonstop, but it's being a comedian on the spot, funny, just dogging people out. And we weren't sure how it was going to go at all. Like, we set up in Atlantic Beach, and we roasted for probably 3 hours. It was super windy. It was really cold. We were kind of miserable. And I think that kind of added to it, because I was already kind of like, this is. So I was like getting I was a little sharper with people, actually.
Yeah, it was funny, man. You roasted the shit out of a couple like little white chicks that came up. I was like, oof. I was like, that hurt me, and I'm not even the one getting like into. But
everybody knows that we're joking.
Exactly.
And they're holding a sign that says roast me, and more often than not, we get done with them, and they're like, hey, that was awesome, thank you, and they're slapping hands with us. And sometimes I leave that little bit in the clip because I want people to know that, like, yeah, we said some wild things, but like, everybody was in on it.
It's a joke, man. Like, that's the thing, is like, I feel like our world now is getting too serious.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to, like, you know, I understand, you know, someone may say something that maybe hit a little too close to home, but they're literally just noises that we make with our mouths.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not true, then why are you so butthurt about it? It's some word that the person said to you. But I think that's a really good idea, because Atlantic Beach is full of people. There's thousands of people that are walking up and down, whether it's the beach bars or the restaurants over there and everything. Yeah. I thought that was a solid idea, and I cracked up y'all's clips the whole time. So I thought it was really good.
That, out in front of Lynch's as well.
Oh, is that where you guys sit?
Yeah, it's kind of been our new home base. The owner of Lynch's, they're doing some comedy in Lynch's now.
Oh, really?
Sean Steele is running some shows there and some open mics, and so I knew they were open to comedy in general, and so we just sat down with them like, hey, we've been doing this in Atlantic Beach. What do you think? Can we set out in front of your spot? And he's like, absolutely.
That's
like,
cool.
He's like, anything you need, you let me know. And so he's been like incredibly gracious to us to do that. But if we're finding that you have a better mix of people to roast down in Atlantic Beach, because a lot of people on vacation, people not from here. Jax Beach is kind of like, we're seeing a lot of the same sort of folks.
Yeah, the
over
bars.
and over again. Yeah, so like, you look like. You can only do it so many times, like Surfer Bros or whatever. So Atlantic Beach, it's like, dude, you're wearing socks and sandals. Let's talk about it. You know, like you don't get as much of that down there. So we might go down to St. Augustine and try it. One of the original thoughts was just while we're on the road, whenever we get to a town, like if we have a show on Saturday, let's go out Friday night and roast people and promote the show. Like, hey, if you had a good time, here's a ticket. You know, here's a ticket to tomorrow night's show or whatever. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah, and it's easy.
I love Atlantic Beach. That's one of my favorite places to go. Funny enough, I was telling you about, me and the wife just had our anniversary yesterday. We went to my favorite restaurant in all of Jacksonville is Flying Iguana.
Oh, yeah.
I love that place. You know, good drinks, good tacos. It's kind of hard to beat there.
Yeah.
But I just love the nightlife down there, man. It's comfortable. It's fun. You know, it's not like dingy. It's safe. You know, you can go run around and have a good time there. Yep. The only thing I fucking hate that they do now is they make you pay for parking over there.
They don't validate it now?
Oh, no. Over at the Flying Iguana, you're fine. I'm just talking about everywhere now. You have to pay to park. I'm like, that's gross, man. I'm like, this sucks.
I lived on First Street, kind of right behind Ragtime and everything for years, and dude, I loved it because they would fire up the grill and stuff over there, all the bars and restaurants, and I'd be sitting on my porch like, I think I'm gonna walk down and see what's going on over there, you know, and like, or there'd be times I'm just hanging out on my porch and I would hear the bands playing over at the local, and I'm like, dude, it was sick, man. And people would complain about that.
People
like,
are ridiculous.
You can't hear it in your house.
Yeah.
If you step outside, it's like, oh, this is cool.
I love the vibes down there, man.
Yeah.
Like my favorite bar for the longest time was a Shim Sham room.
Yeah.
I used to love going in there, hug the bear real quick, and there's a picture of me when I turned 21, drunkenly like hugging the bear with my wife, and we were just sitting there doing that. But it's a good time down there, man. It's grown to the point where there's a lot of places that have been there forever that are finally kind of getting the thing, or excuse me, the recognition they deserve. Like Lynch's, that's a freaking staple down there at the beaches.
Absolutely.
Lynch's. I'm trying to think of a couple other ones. There's a bunch of restaurants.
Mangoes.
Lemon Bar. I love the Lemon Bar. That's
Absolutely.
a dangerous spot. You know, you go get a couple of those frozen drinks right after the beach.
I mean, since the boys bought that and they redid it and they got that awesome outdoor space. Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, man, it's cool to see, like I said, the growth of Jacksonville, and even just like the different boroughs are growing and everything. Like Riverside's huge now. They're bringing the freaking hotels downtown now. They're finally they're gentrifying basically everything down there now.
Yep.
And the Jag Stadium's gonna get built. Too bad we're freaking dog shit this year. I'm a huge Jags fan.
One under our belt. We got to leave the country to get that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like as you're wearing a Jags hat, I'm wearing a Jags hat as well.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan. Been a loyal fan since the freaking 0-16 years and everything.
Yep.
And I keep thinking we get that close. I'm like, all right, we have a Super Bowl team and everything, and then we come back this year. I'm like, fuck.
I know.
I'm like, what are we doing? My favorite game ever that I went to was the one where we were against the Chargers. We were down 27-0 in halftime. Remember the playoffs? I was at the game with my wife, and there was a freaking Chargers fan talking shit to me the whole time. He's like, he threw like 4 interceptions in the first like 2 quarters, and he's like, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. I was like, all right. I was like, okay, whatever. I can't even talk shit. And then we started scoring touchdowns. All you hear is me in the back. I'm like, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And we ended up winning by that game-winning field goal. And me and him dapped up after it wasn't like any hate.
Good game.
Oh, yeah, because that was the best game of football I've ever watched personally. And to see the Jaguars go and what that did for the city, man, like the place was vibrating.
That's it. I love what it does for our city. Like the bar that we have, because we have watch parties every game.
That's cool.
And even when they're in England, we'll open early just to have the game. And people are like, you're such a Jags fan. I'm like, yeah. Well, first off, it's good for our whole city. It's good for us personally. People will stay and have an extra couple of drinks and celebrate when we win. Halftime, people are leaving if they suck. I'm like, Trevor, you're costing me money.
What the fuck, man?
Dude, you're costing me loot, son. Like, just fucking, yeah. So it's good for everybody. Not to shit on Trevor or anything. Whatever. He's great, but I thought Minshew brought our city together.
Oh, Minshew Mania was the shit.
It was so neat. Like,
it was.
We weren't that much better of a team or anything, but we were still executing on stuff. But the way the city was behind him and the team in general, I thought was beautiful. You know, I was like, I want to see more of that.
Oh yeah, man! It's the city is Jacksonville will get there. I see memes all the time that Jacksonville sold his soul so we don't get hit by hurricanes and shit like that. I'm like, I guess that may be it.
Yeah, that might be it.
But the Jaguars are the heartbeat. They're the heartbeat of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
There's so many cool things, and they do a lot for the city as well. Whether through charity work, through going out there and helping like the Boys and Girls Club, or Tom Coughlin's still involved here as well, which is crazy to see. And I there's so many people who want to sell the Jags and get rid of them. I'm like, dude, that will destroy our city.
It'd be terrible. No, I think it's good for any city to have a sports franchise, even if you love to hate them.
Yeah.
But it's going to unify people around them.
No, I totally agree. And the city's going to keep growing. The Jaguars are going to get there one day. I may be dead, but, hopefully one day we get there. It'll be all right. But to get a little bit more into you, man, you said you're a father, right? Yeah. And are you 1, 2 kids?
Got 2 daughters.
Nice. 2 daughters, a girl dad.
Yeah,
what's that like?
It's pretty cool. I think my ex-wife says that God gave me girls because I needed to mellow out and it was too aggro. like, he knew what I needed. No, it's neat. I like being a girl dad. It's cool. Like, hey, how's it going?
Hi, sweetie.
No, it's neat. Like, my youngest is always, she processes every emotion through tears. I don't understand that. Like, one day we're just driving on the road. She's like, what's the matter? She's like,
how old are they?
Happy. What? 9 and 12.
Oh, okay. Dang. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I understand.
Yeah. My oldest, man, she's turning into a woman like overnight. Like, what are you doing? Calm down.
Yeah.
Get back to being a little girl, but it's cool. My youngest is adopted.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We adopted her at birth.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So it's,
what made you go through what made you choose the adoption side, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So kind of our original family plan, my ex-wife and I, was to have a kid, adopt a kid and have another kid.
Oh, wow.
And so we wanted to sandwich that adopted kid in the middle and just be like, you're loved, you're chosen. Like you were wanted, and we got divorced before we could have that third one. So, So there you go.
It works out.
I got two.
Well, that's beautiful, man. I would say the adoption where they are not trying to be funny. Are they from the United States? Or are they like from other countries?
She was born in America, but she's Mexican.
Okay, nice. Well, that's awesome, man. Good for you guys.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm like dark hair, dark complexion, and my oldest daughter's blonde hair, blue eyes, and so when people find out I have an adopted daughter, sometimes they're like, the older one? I'm like, no, the younger one. The one that's over there, doing the yard work.
That's beautiful, man. Good for you guys. I would say because I've only in my whole entire life I've only met two people that were actually adopted, and I've always found the story to be interesting because I met people who were adopted from other countries, say like Mexico, Germany, Ireland, and all that, and then came to the United States. That's a really cool thing, man. Good for you guys.
It's it's interesting, and like when people find out that that she's adopted, like it's amazing the stories that come out. I've met so many people that have been like, I'm adopted. Like, no, I did not know that. But because they find out that I've adopted a child, then it gives them purpose to say, hey, I am too, or whatever. One of my good friends, Marshall, when I lived in Texas, he was adopted, and we had a lot of conversations about adoption and what it means to be, brought into a family and the whole thing. And
yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I love that. I love that a lot, man. It's like that's something that I've been really excited about. I know I've talked about being married and everything, and the wife just came in. If you guys saw us waving out off the screen, but like that's something I've always wanted to do. And if it ever came to the point, say maybe I can't have children or she can't have children, that's something I'm 100% down to do. Just because I've always wanted to be able to bestow something or at least have something here whenever I'm gone. Yeah. And I think children are a great way of doing that. And I think it would be cool. And I feel like my luck is I'm going to have a boy who's going to be short as shit. And then I'm going to have a girl that's going to be like 6'2". It's going to be a whole like backwards thing. But no, that's cool. And are they like you? Do they have like similar personality to you? Or are they a little bit more like, no, Dad, I want to be my own person?
Yeah. So like my youngest loves to surf.
Ooh.
And my oldest does not. Actually, my oldest one time, she was like, Dad, I know that you love to surf. Like, and I think that's great, but I don't love to surf. I'm like, that's cool. You can like underwater basket weaving. I don't care. I'll get into whatever you're into. But she likes to go to the woods with me, and she likes to hunt.
That's cool.
She enjoys that time. She's very deep and introspective. So I think that time in the woods is cool for her, and I think that's for any dad who has children, you should take them into the outdoors, whether it's fishing, hunting, hiking, camping, whatever it is, because there's so much positive that happens when you get away from all of this and you're just sitting in nature. Conversations, the truck ride out there, all that stuff is so valuable. But my youngest, she can't sit still to save her life. So she there's not a deer within a mile that's like coming around us. So she doesn't like to hunt. She just is incapable of sitting still.
It happens.
But she loves to surf. And so,
nice.
And I have two great passions. I love to hunt. I love to surf. And I love music as well. Neither one of them have really expressed a real passion for music at all. But my oldest is learning. Her stepdad's a musician, so he's teaching her how to play piano. So nice. I don't know if she'll stick with it or not, but yeah, the youngest loves to surf, and I think that's great. And oldest likes to go to the woods with me, but ultimately, I'm into whatever they're into. They're both playing soccer and
getting into it.
Yeah, I'm on the side of the field cheering and losing my mind for them and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, so I was lucky enough where my parents are divorced as well and both remarried and everything, and I have a bigger family now because of it.
Yeah.
But they were all into what I was into. I played football, I played basketball. They would watch me lose my shit on the court and like get into it. Like I'm a genuinely friendly guy, but when it came to sports, I was just an asshole. I was like the enforcer when it came to being on the basketball team.
Nice.
And really enjoyed it. But like you're saying, that invaluable time with your parents. Like as I've gotten older, I don't look at them as my parents now. I look at them as, peers and also supporters and everything. Like before you got here, me and my dad were just on the phone for 2 hours talking about life.
Yeah.
We lived a mile down the road from each other.
That's awesome.
And I could just have this conversation with you. But, like the other thing is like, I was telling you about us being married and everything, and divorce is hard, I'm sure, just going through it. You don't like each other at that time and all that kind of stuff, and this happened over 20 years ago. But at the wedding, like watching my parents talk to each other and be friends, like they've gotten past all the bullshit, and they were there for us, me and my wife, and accepted her with open arms, and it's very much an important thing. And as I've gotten older, like time's become a little bit more of a thought in my head, like you just never know when the last time is. So I try to soak up as much time as I can with my family, whether it's just through, going and doing card nights, it seems like something small, but when you get older, it's something that you'll remember, like, oh, we used to have fun. We used to get drunk and shoot the shit and talk mad shit to each other playing Uno or whatever it was. Yeah. But that's something I've tried to, register a little bit more. It's just like, go be with your family, go hang out with them, because at the end of the day, that's all you have at the end of the day here.
No, you're exactly right. I love that. My dad and I have a phenomenal relationship. We are very close. We're very similar. He was a stand-up comic.
Really?
Yeah. And when I say I used to get roasted as a kid, I mean, I mean it.
Professionally roasted. Yeah.
Professionally. But we get along so well, and we're both like, I say I'm a serial hobbyist. Like I just like learned that I get to figure something out, then I move on to something else. He's very similar in that, but we just call each other and laugh and cut up all the time. My relationship with my mom has gone up and down over the years. We're in a healthy spot now, but it hasn't always been that way. But yeah, I mean, family is so important, you know, and my ex-wife and I, we co-parent very well. You know, when we were going through the divorce, it's like, hey, this isn't working out. However, these little girls are primary. So we have to be on the same page. We make all our decisions together. There's no like, mom said I can do this. And you're like, okay,
yeah,
I'll call her right now. you know, we talk, right? Like you're not, no, that's not how it works.
We're not playing this game.
Right. Like we'll decide if this is actually going to work or not, you know? So, having that, even though that we're not under the same roof, we're all under the same, or on the same page. I think that's incredibly important, and getting along with each other's, new spouses. You know, she's remarried, I'm remarried, and we'll all four be on the soccer field sideline cheering for the kids. And I think it's so healthy for them to be loved from all that, like from a multitude of directions, you know?
No, I totally agree, man. And that's the thing, like me and my stepdad now and my stepmom as well. Like I've told them thank you as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't understand it. I thought it was someone who was trying to take over a position, whether it was my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're not my mom, you're not my dad, so fuck you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I've come to the realization, I'm like, thank you for stepping into really an impossible position.
It is.
There's no winning. There is no winning. You're a new person into a child's life, and, you know, they push back a little bit on it. But now, like I said, they're friends. They're people I respect, and I can go to Guy for guidance, because I'm 25. I don't know the whole fucking world. And as I've gotten older, I learned that I'm not 6'10" and bulletproof. You know, there's going to be some times where I need to lean on someone, and their wealth of knowledge, and, you know, they've helped me out throughout life, helped her out as well, and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. And as I said, it's just like anytime I talk to people who are step parents, I respect the hell out of it, because as I said, it's just impossible. You're just trying not to step on the other parent's toes. You're trying to fill in a position where you can and everything, and it's hard. It definitely is hard.
Yeah.
How did you meet your current wife?
She ignored me on Bumble.
Oh, I love it.
We matched on Bumble. So at the time I was working for Void magazine. I was it was a magazine and an advertising agency. So I was an art director for the agency and worked on the mag a little bit, but she has a clothing company called the Admiral's Daughters.
Okay.
And so she was advertising in the magazine. So I would see her kind of come in. I'm like, hey, who's the old girl, you know? And and then we would match on Bumble, and I was like, oh, sick, there she is, and ghost.
Oh.
You know, so then, you know, you go date other people or whatever, then you come back, and oh, we matched again, sweet, ghost. And so because she was advertising in the magazine, I kind of found her on Instagram, and, you know, I was kind of stalking her a little bit. And one night I was on a date. I was at Hawker's. It was kind of the last date with this chick I was seeing. And I didn't know it, but my wife, Lindsay, was just a couple seats down with some friends of hers, and she was there with a guy that she was kind of done with. And like the next day, she was like, hey, were you at Hawker's last night? And I'm like, yeah, I was. You know, she's like, I thought that was you. And she didn't like slide in or anything. But she was like, hey, I saw you. I was like, yeah, not so bad in person, huh? Yeah. Like maybe my profile pics weren't that great. But anyway, so we started talking. And at the time, I didn't know this, but at the time, her mother was very sick. But I was like, hey, let's go grab a drink. You know, I'd like to get to know you or whatever. And she'd be like, oh, I'm going to get a rain check. Okay. I'm like, hey, let's go grab coffee. Well, I need a rain check. She kept doing this all the time. I was like, listen, chick, I'm going to cash one of these checks.
Yeah, I'll say,
I'm not chasing you all over the beaches here.
Yeah.
You either want to go on a date or you don't. And she's like, I'm sorry, I've just been going through a lot, whatever. I'm actually in the middle of moving. And I was like, I'll come help you move. So I showed up, helped her move, and then that's it.
Oh, wow.
But we were very, 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 very slow to become like official.
I understand.
Like we were like, I was dating at arm's length, and so was she. And we just kind of were like taking it super slow and getting to know each other. I mean, I was married 11 years, and I was convinced I would never get married again. And I even told her, like, I'm never getting married again. So I'll help you go find a good guy if that's what you really want. Like, introduce you to some people, but I'm the surfingest, huntingest, fishingest motherfucker you've ever met, and that's never going to change.
Yeah.
If you're cool with that, and then she's like, I want go do whatever makes you happy. Let's just get to know each other. And so that was kind of our relationship for a long time. And even like the kids didn't know her for a long time.
Understandable.
Like, and I'd see these people all the time that, I just met you. I love you. Here's my children. It's like, dude, marriages don't work out. You're a dumbass. Don't introduce these people to your kids because she's a psycho bitch and she's going to call you a narcissist and you're going to be a gaslighter and she's going to be a psycho. And the whole thing goes round and round. You're going to break up and the kids are going to go through what feels like another divorce.
Yeah, it's hard,
It's so unfair to them. So we were very particular about that. And in fact, some of the women I dated didn't understand that. That's why it ended.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you can't understand that my kids are the most valuable thing in my entire life. You don't get access to that. Sorry.
No.
Not giving you the code to the nukes or the access to the kids. Sorry. So, but Lindsay was always very cool about it. She's like, yeah, totally. And there were times where we would all hang out in a big group and she'd be there. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, like you're just like anybody else here. Like, don't get your feelings hurt when I treat you like everybody else here. Cause kids are very intuitive and I don't want them to pick up on anything.
Yeah.
And there were times we'd have to have conversations like after we'd hang out and she's like, man, that was kind of tough. People are asking me like, are you and Scott okay? And she'd be like, no, it's all right. The kids are here, whatever. But it was important to us, and then when they finally did meet her, it was when I knew that she was somebody I was going to spend a significant amount of time with. And even at that point, I didn't think I was going to get married again.
I understand, man. And I think that's very important because my mom has even told me that. My dad told me that. He's like, I didn't bring my significant other around you because of that specific reason. I don't want you to get attached and then something happens and you feel like bad about it or it's your fault or whatever it is. Yep. And I respect that, to be honest with you. Like, I don't think my mom brought my stepdad around me for months, until they really decided they were going to move in together. Right. And I respect that, man, because it's hard. Being a kid, you want to feel wanted, I guess, is really what it is. And, your parents are going through something and you're like, is it my fault? Did I do something wrong? So that's good. Yeah. And funny enough with Shannon over here, the first time I ever laid eyes on her, we met at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. That was my first job ever. She hates when I tell this story. She came in to talk to another guy that she was dating in there. It was my manager.
I don't see that loser now.
Yeah, I was like, fuck him. But she came in and I remember she was wearing this dress. She gave me the oddest request. Like, I walked up, I think I was dating someone at the time as well. And I was like, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm very much a talker. I'll go talk to anybody. And I walked up to her. I was like, hey, how you doing? Can I help you? She's like, hey, I'm here for so-and-so. I was like, okay, I'll go grab him. I was like, is there anything I can grab you while I'm here? She's like, can you give me some cut up green peppers? I was like, sure. I was like, okay. And she sat there and ate those like apples, like apple slices, basically. I was like, I'm like, this is interesting. Yeah. And funny enough, that gentleman that she was talking to at the time, me and him got into an altercation, ended up moving stores, and I ended up taking over her store as a manager, and we were just friends, just really good friends, hanging out, all that kind of stuff. And stuff happens. We started dating, and 1 month into us dating, she moved in, and 8 years later, man, no one thought we were going to be serious. Everybody thought we were going to be a quick fling, and I'm sure it surprised a lot of people, to be honest with it, that we ended up making it work. And, 8-9 years later, man, we're here, we're married, and it's crazy how just time works, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah, very, very lucky, but it's cool, man. Like, I feel like relationships are, it's as much as you put into it is really what it's going to be. Yeah. And, we're talking about having kids now, which is crazy, which is really crazy. I'm like, people are going to trust me to take care of a little human being and, bring him home and all that shit.
That's the craziest car ride ever.
I was about to ask.
You take that little bundle of joy and you stick it in the car and then you're like, oh, fuck you, hey, watch where you're going, pal. It's like I hit a speed bump leaving the hospital. I'm like, why do they have speed bumps in the hospital parking lot? This is stupid. Shaking her head around. I'm supposed to support the head.
It's crazy, man. But I feel like life is such a wild thing. And obviously, it sounds like you've lived a lot of life in a short amount of time. I know you said you're 40, but that's young in my opinion. Yeah. You're still doing it. Young, spry, going out hunting and everything. Are there, like, when it comes to everything that you're doing here, what is like the final goal for you? Is it just to get to a point where you feel like you've succeeded, or is it more of just do your thing and see where it takes you?
So, like, with everything that I'm doing, my goal is just to be as good at it as I can possibly get. And if I don't feel like I've peaked, then it still piques my interest. So surfing actually I feel like I'm maybe losing a little interest in, because I feel like I may have peaked. Like I like a couple years ago, I felt like I was surfing as good as I've ever surfed ever. And then, like just last week I paddled out and I'm like, I'm a little slower than I used to be. I'm not quite doing the turns that I used to or whatever. So like maybe I've peaked in surfing but I'm actually kind of okay with it, because like you can never master the outdoors. You can never master hunting, right? Comedy, you're never going to just get there. And like the odds of actually making it as a comedian is like, yeah, right, dude. We're doing it. It's like being in a band. It's like, that's cool, man. Your band's playing at the local bar. That's great. That's real cute. Listen, can you buy groceries? You know, it's like your family kind of looks at you like, what are you doing, man? You're like 40 years old. You telling dick jokes at the bar there? You know, but there's something to be learned and gained, and every time you get on stage, you grow. So I don't know. As a creative, I think about retirement all the time, and as a freelancer, you know, it's not like you're paying a bunch of money into a 401k or whatever. So I've been in major save mode the last 6 months or so. I lost a client and it was a bit of a wake up call because I was like kind of on the gravy train there for a little bit. And then it's like, all of a sudden that's gone. So you go, oh man, I got to really think about some things, because I had to tighten the belt a lot. And, but now, I'm fortunate I've regained what I've lost in that client and then some. So, but I'm like, I got to save. But ultimately I've got this wild idea of being an investor by design. So like people approach me all the time with startups or businesses that are struggling and they go, hey, we're not sure. We want to start some advertisements, whatever. And I've been in advertising for so long. A lot of times I can see a big issue in the communication strategy for a business. Is your product actually needed? Are you able to communicate to an audience in a way that they understand how your product can help them? And so there's been a lot of opportunities throughout my career where I've helped people completely rewrite their business strategy, all that stuff. And it started with it like, we need to have a video. It's like, well, why do you need a video? Most people don't need a video. Most people need to go way back and ask themselves some key questions about what they're producing, who's consuming it, and how they're talking to them. And there's also administrative things like who in your organization is making the decisions. Do they know where you're going and why? And so having so many of those conversations over the years, I know that I bring an extreme value in that area. So I'm kind of feeling out. I would say, like, so I just turned 40. By the time I turn 50, I'd like to have been investor by design in a few different businesses. So if I can have a percentage ownership in a handful of different industries, and then eventually what I'd like to do is like into my 50s, I'd like to step out of having my hand to the plow and I would like to just be having meetings as a shareholder in a business and a marketing consultant with an equity share. And so that way I can continue to run several businesses and still do a creative, have a creative influence in companies, but then just here's the direction we're going. We're going to have these young whippersnappers coming out of UNF, shoot the video or whatever. Like, I don't care about that anymore, but so that'd be that's kind of the end goal for me, I think. Yeah.
And if someone wants to reach out for your expertise, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you or, touch base to get that ball rolling?
So I'm on social media too much. So if you find my social media, Scott Whatley Comedy. I know it's a stand-up comedy Instagram account, but you can reach out anything. And then my website, Scott Whatley Creative. So I'm very, very direct. It's Scott Whatley Stand Up, Scott Whatley Creative.
It makes it easy to find you, man. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it.
If you're looking for creative work, my website's probably the fastest. You can see some examples of my work. It's never updated. I'm too busy. Too busy working for clients. Most of it's years old, but you can see the quality of stuff I'm doing. And just shoot me an email through there or a phone call from there.
Hell yeah, man. And I got one final question for you. And like I said, I appreciate your time today, man. Thank you so much for coming by. I really enjoy your content and everything. It's been awesome to learn more about what you do. And I'm sure I'll have you on for another conversation because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of avenues we can go down. But anytime it's someone's first time on the podcast, I always ask them this question is, do you feel successful? And if you do or do not, in what ways?
I feel incredibly successful. I shouldn't have graduated high school. I'm dyslexic and I struggled my entire life. So, nobody even knew I was dyslexic until I was going in like junior high. I had just failed and failed and failed. I did second grade twice. If it hadn't been for my ex-wife, I wouldn't have graduated high school. Like, she helped me rewrite all my reports.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to sit and watch a lot of teachers tell me like, you're going to fail forever. And so, and I haven't. I've found a way to have a lot of free time. I'm not wanting for anything. I get to enjoy the things that I still enjoy, and I've got enough margin and financially to enjoy those. One time I got a phone call from my dad, and there's this commercial on. It's like, be your own boss, make your own hours, all this stuff. And he was listening to it, and he called me, and he's like, hey man, I just wanted to tell you that I'm really proud of you. And he's like, I maybe haven't told it to you like this before, but I was like, I'm really proud of you. And he said, he goes, you figured out a way to maintain all the things that you really love to do, and you make money. You don't answer to anybody, and you enjoy your work. You enjoy your time off. And he's like, I've just never met anybody that's been able to do that. And I was like, well, thanks, dude. Because like, there's a lot of times where I'll feel like a failure. I live in a neighborhood where half my neighbors are multimillionaires, like cash flowing everywhere. And it's tough. You know, a lot of the guys, we call our neighborhood blue collar rich. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, here's a guy that's worth $8 million, $10 million, $15 million. Like, what did you do? Plumbing company, roofing company, landscaping company, sold a business. You know, it's like, so there are times where I'm sitting at the dinner party and I'm like, guys, I don't want to make it weird, but I literally have like thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And these guys are like, yeah, cool, man. I've got millions of dollars. Like, but it's like, you know, whatever, you're working towards goals, you know, but it's sometimes you can feel like a failure if you're comparing yourself to other folks. But if I'm comparing myself to what I thought I might be able to achieve when I was in high school, yeah, right, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was a shoe salesman at JCPenney's. I was working at Ace Hardware. I was a window washer, you know, and like, one thing I just knew is that I just didn't want to have to answer to anybody. And when you have clients, you answer to the clients, but you're setting the schedules, you're taking the clients you want, you're meeting your own deadlines. The waves are good, I'm going to go surf. If it's, you know, deer season, I'm going to hunt in the morning.
Damn right.
And I think that's very successful, even if I'm not walking around with like millions of bucks.
I totally agree with you, man. And like I said, funny enough, the dyslexia side, same here. Yeah. I would say hardcore dyslexic. My mom literally was sitting across a table where a teacher called me stupid, and took all her not to jump across that table. Damn. And you know, I almost failed a couple grades and had to do the same thing, man. And you know, I totally agree, man. And at the end of the day, it's you determine your future. You put the effort in. You work your ass off. Just because you're not a millionaire doesn't mean you're not successful. If you're happy. That's the biggest thing.
That's it, man.
So I think that's a beautiful way to end the podcast, man. And shout out to you. Thank you again for your time today. Please let everybody know where they can give you a follow on your social media and your businesses that you want them to check out, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. If you are in Jacksonville, go to the Palms Pantry. It's a beer and wine bar. My wife and I own it. It's a fun place to sit and hang out. Kid friendly. Let the kids come run around the backyard. If you need any consulting in any creative avenues, whether it's figuring out the language for your business, market positioning, creating ads, hit me up through my website, scottwhatleycreative.com. And if you like jokes and you're not easily offended, go to Scott Whatley Stand Up on TikTok, Scott Whatley Comedy on Instagram, or the Shallow End Boys on YouTube.
Hell yeah. Make sure you guys go check them out. Everything will be in the description so you guys can go check out anything that he has going on. So make sure you guys go give him a like, follow, share, anything you guys got to see going on. If you guys work with him in the business side of things, let him know that the Who Are You sent you. I love when I see people who are listening to the podcast or watch the podcast go work and support the people that we have on here. So just let them know the Who Are You sent you. And before we get out of here, if you guys want to give us a follow on the social media, it's going to be at Who Are You Pod from everything from Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. You guys know where to find us nowadays. And also make sure you guys leave us a like, subscribe, a 5-star rating on either the YouTube or all that good stuff, or even on the actual audio side of things. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be Who Are You Podcast. Also, one last thing, if you guys know someone who you think has a story that needs to be told, a business owner, an entrepreneur, an artist, or anybody you think would be a good fit for the show, make sure you guys shoot me a DM on any of the social media, or you can email me. It's going to be whoareyoupod@yahoo.com, and maybe we'll have you guys on a future episode. But as I say every week, y'all, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your time today, my man, and we'll see you guys next week.